Okay, guys. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little Q&A to help the consumers out there determine which kit they need for motorcycle and snowmobile and ATV applications. And Kyle and I are going to have just a quick discussion. Kyle, what would be the easiest way for the folks out there to decide which kit they need for their motorcycle or ATV? Let's go over motorcycle and ATV first.
All right, motorcycle ATV, what we need to determine from you as the customer is how many cylinders in it. Is it a carbureted application or is it a fuel injection application? Okay.
So if it's a carbureted application, we need to know how many carburetors are on that ATV.
That is correct. That'll determine how many nozzles you will need.
So if I have a four-wheeler, a Banshee that has 2 carburetors on it, then I would need a dual nozzle
wet kit. That kit's a carburetor, so therefore you need to remember that you have to supply your own fuel because there's no fuel pump on that bike.
So I would need a dual nozzle wet kit with a fuel pump.
That is correct, and we provide that for you.
Okay.
So when you call in, you just need to say, you know, I got a bike, a four-wheeler. Just need to know if it's a carbureted application or if it's a fuel injection application. Don't be misled though. If your fuel injection bike, you want to have a standalone system, we can provide that as well.
So if I have a Busa motorcycle, it's fuel injected, it's got 4 throttle bodies on it.
It's got 4 throttle bodies. We have 2 options for you on there, Mike. We've got the full race bike, which is actually the big Pro solenoids that will supply up to 350 horsepower. Or for the guys who want to run around the street, we have a small dry nozzle kit, which is great from 20 horsepower up to 40 horsepower. And that is good on a stock bike, no mods. You don't have to have a dyno or anything like that.
Just a simple motorcycle dry kit can make 40 horsepower.
Right, only on a fuel injection application, that's what we recommend.
So on a, basically all we need to know when we're trying to decide on which kit we want to buy is if it's fuel injected or carbureted.
Correct.
And how many throttle bodies or carburetors we have. And so if it has 3 carburetors, then we need a triple nozzle wet kit with a fuel pump.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we can provide the horsepower. If you don't know, we can give you a soft tune-up recommendation on the tune-up on something like that. We're pretty good with that. But if you have your own recommendation and you know what you want, we can provide that as well.
So for snowmobiles and ATVs and motorcycles are all basically the same kits. They're just broken down into carbureted or fuel injected applications.
That is correct. They're all motors. And all they're doing, some have wheels, some have sleds. The only difference in between really your motorcycle and your four-wheeler and your sleds typically use a lower bottle pressure because they're in the snow. So all we do is we compensate that for them in their tune-up and they're good to go.
So if I have a sled, like an F7, fuel injected with 2 throttle bodies, I'd want a dual nozzle motorcycle wet kit, EFI, and I might consider getting a pressure regulator so I could have a
pressure regulator, yes. Regulator work good. And once again, you know, in the regulator, the atmosphere where it's cold, the bottle pressure is not hot. We don't have the bottle warmers for the little bitty bottles, so therefore we have the regulators, which in turn will give you the same effect.
And for sleds, the F7, I know I could get a 5-pound bottle underneath the hood, but the typical kit comes with a 2 or 2.5 pound bottle.
Correct.
How long will the nitrous last? I know that we use 1 pound of nitrous to make 100 horsepower for 10 seconds, but I'm not going to be using 100 horsepower.
Right. I mean, you know, that's an everyday question. That's a good question. But unfortunately, you've got 2 things working against you. 1, how much horsepower you spraying. The more horsepower you spray, the more nitrous you're going to use. 2, how long are you going to hold the button down. That's also an effect. Sometimes people get out there, they run them up the mountains, they get carried away with how long they've been on the button, they don't realize it, your bottle starts to run down. So you need to be aware of how long you're spraying, how much you're spraying. You can figure it out once you get out there and start spraying it, or you can also buy an extra bottle, which doesn't help, put it in the truck when you're out, go back, freshen up, put a new bottle in and go.
So basically, if I want to figure out how long I'm going to be able to use my 2-pound bottle, I could just calculate and do the math because you use 1 pound of nitrous to make 100 horsepower for
Right.
10 seconds.
That's a good way of looking at it, but not everybody uses 100 horsepower, but on a scientific page, on a baseline, that's what we like to go by. It keeps it simple and nothing difficult to understand.
Well, that helps a lot. Well, what would you recommend to start off with when you install a nitrous kit on a motorcycle or ATV or snowmobile? Would you recommend starting off with the biggest horsepower?
No, if you don't know, you need to kind of be aware of what your sled or bike makes. If you don't know, I mean, the techs here are really good. I've owned all these four-wheelers, so I kind of have a good idea. You want to start at your lowest setting, get a good tune-up on that thing, and then make a slow progress to go to the upper settings. Because not always, when you start getting them big horsepowers, you've got things you need to worry about. You've got timing, or more critical. You've got your spark plug gap that's more critical. Coated plugs more critical. So a nice, soft, safe setting is good to start off with. Start to learn your product before you get out there and just go all at it and hurt yourself or the motor.
And it's always a good idea to run good gasoline. So I guess should I go to the nearest airport and buy some avgas?
No, I mean, you typically want to run some good fuel, obviously. I mean, your super unleaded is good until you get to a good point, until you start getting to an upper horsepower levels. And let me tell you, if you're not sure and you start spraying it, you can tell. When you hear that motor start knocking, and she will start knocking, that lets you know that there is some detonation, there's some fuel issues that you need to attend to.
So basically low octane fuel, when you're using high horsepower nitrous applications, you'll hear that similar sound that you hear when you get bad gas in your car, that sort of pinging sound. Yeah. That's what that is.
That's right. That's a bad sign. That's not a good sign.
That's what breaks pistons.
That's things start to come apart. You don't want that.
So good fuel is very important, and especially if you're going to be out in the mountains on a sled, it probably would be a good idea for maybe to buy some race gas and maybe do a little mixture to get the octane up.
You want to, if you could get some 101, even just put a couple of gallons of 110, and I don't know what's available in your area, but anything above a grade out of the pump that you buy at the store is typically good. Is recommended for higher applications.
And do you think that a purge kit is recommended for motorcycles or snowmobiles?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Purge kits are really good in all applications because once you're done, you need to get rid of the nitrous in your lines, and you really don't want to start knocking the lines loose because nitrous will come out and you got a tension. You can actually burn yourself. It's so cold. So the purge kit is really good to get rid of that nitrous, get it out of there. You won't get hurt. Your system stays unpressurized. So that's a good recommendation.
Well, man, that sounds good, and I think that covered all the questions we had concerning motorcycles and ATVs. So basically, you just need to know if it's carbureted or fuel injected and how many carburetors or throttle bodies you have. And if you have 2, then you need a dual nozzle kit. If you have 3, you need a triple kit. And if it's fuel injected, you don't need a fuel pump. If it's carbureted, you do. So it's really pretty easy to decide which kit you need.
That's right. But you can go either way. You can go with we can put a standalone fuel pump on that kit if you want to on bikes. If you really run a lot of horsepower, you don't want to rob the fuel out of your fuel rail. So we'll provide the pump that will keep that safe. You'll get plenty of fuel into your motor, and we have it all from 10 horsepower up to 300 horsepower.
And this could be used on Harley Sportsters or anything?
You can use it on any motorcycle application, any sled, any four-wheeler, from a Harley to your sport bike, to your drag bike, to your four-wheeler, to your four-wheel drive four-wheeler. It doesn't matter. We can accommodate all that for you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Kyle.
Thank you.